Presently, with an excuse, he left me, asking me to put my papers together. He was some little time away, and I began to look at some of the books around me. One was an atlas, which I found open naturally at England, as if that map had been much used. On looking at it, I found in certain places little rings marked, and on examining these, I noticed that one was near London on the east side, manifestly where his new estate was situated. The other two were Exeter and Whitby on the Yorkshire coast. It was the better part of an hour when the Count returned. "Aha," he said, "still at your books? Good, but you must not work always. Come, I am informed that supper is ready." He took my arm and we went into the next room, where I found an excellent supper ready on the table. The Count again excused himself, as he had dined out on his being away from home. But he sat, as on the previous night, and chatted while I ate. After supper I smoked, as on the last evening, and the Count stayed with me, chatting and asking questions on every conceivable subject, hour after hour. I felt it was getting very late indeed, but I didn't say anything, for I felt under obligation to meet my host's wishes in every way. I was not sleepy, as the long sleep yesterday had fortified me, but I could not help experiencing that chill which comes over one at the coming of the dawn, which is like, in its own way, the turn of the tide. They say that people who are near death die generally at the change to the dawn or the turn to the tide. Anyone who has, when tired, and tied as it were to his post, experienced this change in the atmosphere can well believe it. All at once we heard the crow of a cock coming up with preternatural shrillness through the clear morning air, and Count Dracula, jumping to his feet, said, "Why, there's the morning again. How remiss I am to let you stay up so long. You must make your conversation regarding my dear new country of England less interesting, so that I may not forget how time flies by us." And with a courtly bow, he quickly left me. I went to my own room and drew the curtains, but there was little to notice. My window opened into the courtyard, and all I could see was the warm gray of quickening sky. So I pulled the curtains again, and have written of this day. 8th of May. I began to fear as I wrote in this book that I was getting too diffuse. But now I'm glad that I went into detail from the first, for there is something so strange about this place and all in it that I cannot but feel uneasy. I wish I were safe out of it, or that I had never come. It may be that this strange night existence is telling on me, but would that were all. If there were anyone to talk to, I could bear it, but there's no one. I have only the Count to speak with, and I fear I am myself the only living soul within the place. Let me be prosaic as far as facts can be. It will help me to bear up, and imagination must not run riot with me. If it does, I'm lost. Let me say at once how I stand, or seem to. I only slept a few hours when I went to bed, and feeling that I could not get up anymore, got up. Could not sleep anymore, got up. I had hung my shaving glass by the window, and was just beginning to shave. And suddenly I felt a hand on my shoulder and heard the Count's voice saying to me, "Good morning." I started, for it amazed me that I had not seen him since the reflection of the glass covered the whole room behind me. In starting, I had cut myself slightly, but did not notice it at the moment. Having answered the Count's salutation, I turned to the glass again to see how I had been mistaken. This time, there could be no error, for the man was close to me, and I could see him over my shoulder, but there was no reflection of him in the mirror. The whole room behind me was displayed, but there was no sign of a man in it except myself. This was startling, and coming on the top of so many strange things, was beginning to increase the vague sense of uneasiness which I've always had when the Count is near. But the instant I saw the cut had bled a little, the blood was trickling over my chin, I laid down the razor, turning as I did so, half round to look for some sticking plaster. When the Count saw my face, his eyes blazed with a sort of demoniac fury, and he suddenly made a grab at my throat. I drew away, and his hands touched the string of beads which held the crucifix. It made an instant change in him, for the fury passed so quickly I could hardly believe it was ever there. "Take care," he said. "Take care how you cut yourself. It's more dangerous than you think in this country." And then seizing the shaving glass, he went on, "And this is the wretched thing that has done the mischief. It is a foul bauble of man's vanity. Away with it!" And opening the heavy window with one wrench of his terrible hand, he flung out the glass, which was shattered into 1,000 pieces on the stones of the courtyard far below, and then he withdrew without a word. It's very annoying because I don't see how I am to shave. unless in my watch case or the bottom of a shaving pot, which fortunately is of metal. When I went into the dining room, breakfast was prepared, but I could not find the Count anywhere, so I breakfasted alone. It's strange that as yet I have not seen the Count eat or drink. He must be a very peculiar man. After breakfast, I did a little exploring in the castle. I went out on the stairs. I found a room looking toward the south. The view was magnificent, and from where I stood, there was every opportunity of seeing it. The castle is on the very edge of a terrible precipice. A stone falling from the window would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. As far as the eye can see is a sea of green treetops, and occasionally a deep rift where there's a chasm. Here and there are silver threads where the rivers wind in deep gorges through the forests. But I'm not in heart to describe beauty, for when I had seen the view, I explored further. Doors, doors, doors everywhere, and all locked and bolted. In no place, save from the windows in the castle wall, is there an available exit. The castle is a veritable prison, and I am a prisoner.